my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and these are the hottest Golden Age comics for the week, and it's an amazing list. These are some really good books, and some of them are like spec books, like almost that you would speculate if you didn't know about these books, you'd kind of speculate on them, but they're Golden Age. I don't know how to describe it, but they're pretty cool books. First one on the list is number 10. Captain Marvel Jr. number 10, and it's from Fawcett 1943. It's a McElroy cover, and it has a really cool split cover where it's got Captain Marvel Jr. on one side and Hitler on the other. And Hitler's looking really sad, and Captain Marvel Jr. is looking really happy. And it asks, why is Captain Marvel Jr. so happy, and why is Hitler so miserable? So it's just a really cute cover. It's a Hitler cover. That's one of the reasons why it's very collectible. These like propaganda covers from the wartime were huge. So yes, this was a 3.5 that sold, and it sold for $1,360. The previous record for this book was set back in 2022, in October of 2022, for $2,040. So it's down about $700 from that prior record. This was actually a buy it now, believe it or not, for $1,300. So $700 down. Now, you probably wonder, why would they do a buy it now for less than the previous record? Well, the previous sale for this book was set back in September of 2023, so a year after the record, and that was for $425. So this book had just plummeted, and then basically I think somebody just got a cheap copy, resold it for a mid price. Just one of those things where there are sometimes these crazy drops. This is kind of returning back to that previous record price, but I think that previous record might have been sort of that one-off sale where somebody kind of overpaid for a book. So 3.5 selling for $1,300, kind of what you would expect this book to go for, actually. There are 36 of these on the census, and 34 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 9, Mickey Mouse Magazine, Volume 5, number 12, which works out to being issue number 60. It's from Dell, 1940. It's the actually last issue of Mickey Mouse Magazine. It changed its name to Walt Disney Comics and Stories. And it's a great Donald Duck cover. So this was a 6.0 that sold, and it sold for $1,602.77. This is actually the only sale in this grade, but it's kind of in line with what you would expect, because if you look at the 8.0, it sold in 2022, I believe, or 2020, for $3,360. Which would work out to being about $2,520, so about $900 more than what this sold for. So you'd think, oh, that's means that this is a really low sale. However, if you look at a 5.0 that sold in 2020 as well, it sold for $1,020. So you would expect this one to sell for around $1,200. So what happens is, when you get to those higher grades, there's a doubling effect. And the way it works is that there's an 8.0, there's an 8.5, and I think there's a 9.0. I think those are the three highest grades. So generally what happens is, as you get to those higher grades, well, there's a doubling effect. So this is kind of in line with what you would expect a 6.0 copy to sell for, that there's a bit of a jump at that price, but not as much of a jump as compared to an 8.0 from 6. There's a bit of more of a logarithmic feel at the higher grades. So right in line with what I would expect. There are 29 of these on the census, and 24 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 8 on the list is Batman number 62. This is a Win Mortimer cover from DC Comics 1950. It is one of my favorite covers for Catwoman. Actually, I call it the Crazy Cat Lady cover because you got Catwoman, Catwoman throwing cats at Batman and Robin. Just a really cool cover. It's actually the origin of Catwoman, and it's when we learn that her real name is Selena Kyle. So lots going for this book. Crazy Cat Lady cover. And this was a 7.5 that sold, and it sold for $2,995. It was a buy it now. And this is a steal. This is another steal, like really great price. Because the previous record for this book was set back in April, I believe. I think it was sold back in 2022 for $4,195.50. But that was a Bobby Blue pedigree, so you got to kind of interpret it with that in mind. So that would be kind of, maybe people pay a little extra because it is part of the Bobby Blue collection, even though it's not a proper pedigree. But that was the record for this book. It's 4,000, almost 4,200. So this is way below that previous record. There was actually a 7.0 even that sold in April of 2024. So just recently, like last month, and it even sold for $4,080. So I don't know why somebody did a buy it now at such a cheap price. Kind of makes me wonder. A little bit strange. This one was a bit of a steal. Sometimes you can get buy it nows that are really great prices, and this is a good example of that. There are 233 of these on the census, and 214 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is Our Gang Comics #1. This is from Dell, 1942. It's a Walter Kelly cover, and it features the first appearance of Our Gang, and also Tom and Jerry. Very popular cartoon characters. It's even got a cool photo cover of Our Gang on the back, and it also shows bigger images of Tom and Jerry. So really cool book. Very hard to find book, actually. This was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $3,000. Now, the previous record for this book was set back in 2011. That shows you how long you have to wait for a copy to come up. And that it sold for, in 2011, it sold for $740. There was actually a 3.0 that sold in April of 2023 for $1,060. So this is about double what that 3.0 had sold for. So very strong sale for this book. Like it's 3 times what the 3.0 sold for, but my point is double in terms of the price per point. So there are 38 of these on the census, and 36 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Very hard book to find. It doesn't come up that often, so sometimes you have to pay up for it. The next one, number 6 on the list, is another rare book. It is Namora #3. This is from Timely, 1948. It is a Ken Bald cover, and it's the last issue of the Namora run. It was a very short-lived run, 3 issues, and this was the only sale for this book. So this was a 5.0 that sold, and it sold for $3,363. Only sale for this grade. There was actually a 3.5 that sold for $1,050 back in March of 2022, and that would work out to being about $1,500 a point. That would work out to being about $1,500 for a 5.0. So this is more than double what you would expect a 5.0 to sell for. Very strong sale, and the reason for that is it's a book you don't see that often. there's only 24 of these on the census, and 20 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Detective Comics number 15. This is from DC Comics 1938. It's from actually May of 1938, and that's important to remember. This is a Craig Flessel cover, and when I was talking about Spec at the very beginning of this video, I was referring to this book. This is one of those key books that people might not realize how significant it is, because it features a full-page ad of Action Comics number 1. And it features the front cover in that ad. So it's you get a full cover of Superman's first appearance. So this book appeared before Superman came out, and it might be considered by some collectors to be the first appearance of Superman, because it's prior to Action Comics 1. So just a interesting spec. This was a 3.0 that sold, and it sold for $4,100. Again, only sale. This is the only sale for this book. So hard to determine. Let's look at some other books that are similar similar grades. So there was a 3.5 that sold in May of 2020 for $3,000. So if you kind of do the price per point, so a 3.5 being a higher grade, well, it would work out to being that you would expect this one to sell for around $2,600. So this is way over that. So very strong sale for Detective Comics 15. Maybe the word is out. The spec is is out there. People are going to maybe pick this one up because it is kind of a major key. There are 26 of these on the census, and 18 are Universal Blue Labels. So very rare book. The early detectives are extremely rare because it was before the Batman got into it. Once Batman's in it, the books become a lot more common. But these early detectives are extremely rare. Number 4 on the list is New York's World's Fair, 1939. Now, I had this same book on the list last week, but this is a higher grade copy, but we'll get into that in a second. This is from DC Comics 1939. It is a Vincent Sullivan cover, and it features the first appearance of the Sandman and a blonde Superman on the cover as well. And I was talking about in the previous video about how my friend Stephen Gentner had basically discovered the truth about this book, that this is the first appearance of the Sandman. Well, we'll get into that a little bit more, because this was a 3.0 that sold, and it sold for $5,525. That's massive sale. The previous record for this book was set back in February of 2023, so just last year, for $4,200. So it's gone up quite significantly from that previous sale. And there was a 3.5 that sold in June of 2021 for $4,080. So even a higher grade had sold for less, much less. So this was a big sale. And now let me get into a little bit more inside baseball on this sale. So my friend Steven, whose name is kind of associated to this book because of him actually discovering that it is the Sandman's first appearance, well, he was bidding on this book. He was trying to win it. And I was like, we sort of both ballparked what the fair market value should be. We thought it was maybe around 46, maybe 4,800, maybe 5,000, maybe. I'm kind of pushing it. Well, this book, the bids just kept on going, and it went way past what he was willing to bid on it. He actually did put a 55.25 bid on it. However, the person that won the book was not him. It was somebody else that must have had a massive reserve, because they had, his bid didn't take away from the reserve. So, he didn't get it, and he was like, he was so disappointed. However, there was some calling that happened. Stephen has some connections, and he found somebody, one of his friends, has the book and was willing to sell it. So he got a slightly lower grade for 2.5, but presents really nicely for 4,600. So a second sale to report, both sales happening within minutes of each other. So 2 sales, both records for this book. Just shows that this book is one of those ones that is very desired by collectors. And I want to congratulate Stephen for finally getting his, book that is one of his accomplishments in terms of his collecting hobby, because he's the one that really made CGC denote this as the first appearance of the Sandman. So there are 124 of these on the census, and 85 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Guns Against Gangsters, number 6. This is from Novelty Press, 1949. It's an L.B. Cole cover, and it's a great cover. It's one of these weird sharks on the cover, and Good Girl. But the shark, I don't know, is it a killer whale or shark? I don't know. It's big, too big to be a shark almost. It's just a massive shark. It has that kind of like maybe whale shark. I don't know. Some big shark on the cover. Just a really weird shark. And little, like in the Golden Age, they really didn't know how to draw sharks. And it just looks interesting. But it's got that L.B. Cole style. It's a shark cover. Very cool thing. I always loved this cover, actually. I always thought it was cool. I actually like the fact that Golden Age artists don't really know how to draw sharks. I find them more interesting that way. This was a 9.2 that sold, so really high grade for this book. And it was a pedigree. It was a Promise Collection pedigree, which I have mentioned in the past was a pedigree where 2 brothers had gone off to the Korean War. And one brother promised the other brother that he would protect his comic collection if anything bad were to happen to him. And fate be what it is, something did bad. He died in the Korean War. And so the other brother took care of the comic collection. And it was only recently that this collection has come to light. And as a result, had massive, usually when you have like such a cool story behind the pedigree, they can have massive sales. Well, this book was actually a little bit interesting because it was a 9.2 that sold, as I said, for $6,900. Well, that is actually a bit of a steal. Bit of a steal because the previous record for this book was set back in September of 2023 for $14,400, and that was not a pedigree. So a non-pedigree version sold for more than double what this one had sold for. So very weak sale. I'm not sure why, but really weak sale for this book. But still, a cool book, and yeah, somebody picked up a really great, really great buy on that one. There are 31 of these on the census, and 28 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 2 on the list is another massive book. This is Black Cat Mystery Comics number 50. It's from Harvey, 1954. It is a Lee Elias cover, and it is one of the classic pre-code horror covers. Probably one of the most extreme pre-code horror covers, and probably within the top 5 of all the best pre-code horror covers of all time, because it's like the classic kid eating uranium, and he's like just disintegrating on the cover. It's just very gruesome, very cool pre-code horror cover. A lot of people love this cover. It is highly sought after by collectors. Well, this was an auction that happened on eBay, and it was a 3.5 that sold. And it sold for $9,411. Now that's slightly up from the previous record for this book that was set in November of 2022 for $9,253. So it's up a couple $100 from the prior record. Still, massive sale for this book. I'm surprised they put it on eBay. I always feel like these kind of big books should go on Heritage or somewhere else, but hey, it seems like you can still get records on eBay. There are 115 of these on the census, and 105 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 1 on the list is another really cool book. This is Detective Comics number 28 from DC Comics 1939. It is a Fred Gardner cover, and it is the second appearance of Batman. But he's not on the cover. They were still testing Batman out in a way, and he didn't appear on the cover. It's just like the early actions. Action 1, Superman's on the cover, but some of the early actions didn't have Superman on the cover because they didn't know how these superheroes were going to be accepted. And but this is the second appearance of Batman. Huge book. I think I know who bought it actually, but this was a 1.0 that sold, and it sold for $2,277.50. Massive sale. This is the only sale in this grade, and there's not that many sales. These early detective comics really are quite rare, and you just don't see them that often. There was a 6.0 though that sold in January of 2022 for $66,000. So if you do the math, it works out to being like a 1.0 should be worth around $11,000. So this is kind of in line with what you would expect, you know, around that $12,000 mark. So yeah, just a strong sale for a low grade book. I think it was at Ryan at Automatic Comics that bought this one. So congrats to Ryan. You know, such a great book. You know, this would be another Spec book in a way. Like, you know, if the first appearance becomes too expensive, you go for the second appearance. Well, this is that second appearance, but this book is ultra rare. It's actually as rare as the first appearance, because there's only 43 of these on the census, and only 17 are Universal Blue Labels. So just a massive book, very cool book, and congrats to Ryan. Okay, thanks everyone for watching all these. I hope you enjoyed these hot golden age books. What did you think of the list? Did you buy any of these? Put it in the comments below. And thanks again for watching. Bye for now.